I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's Wednesday, December 6th. It is 5:02, and I'm calling the monthly meeting of the Bristol County Water Authority to order. Second item on the agenda following the call to order is public input. Not seeing any members of the public here tonight, we move on to the approval of minutes. The first set of minutes that are up for approval from the board meeting of October 26, 2023.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion of the motion or minutes? Hearing none, I ask for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Approved the minutes. Second, we have the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting. Do we have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion of the Finance Committee meeting minutes? Hearing none, I ask for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. It's unanimous. We now turn our attention to our Executive Director, our esteemed Executive Director, for his monthly report.
Thank you. Thanks, Chairman. Okay, report for December 6th for the Phase 2 design work. So as we reported previously, the 3% level design plans for the revised group were submitted and reviewed, and they've been back to beta with very little comments, and we've directed them to advance those to the 60% design phase. The blending and water quality report still remains under review by the DOH, and given the staffing situation over there, we may have to engage them in a maybe different way. They were possibly recommending maybe some assistance for them to review this, and possibly offering up to have them pay for a consultant to review this report so that we can advance this design.
Would they have to pay for their own consultant to do that?
They would pay for their own consultant, but maybe we'd offer to help assist in that as well.
Financially?
We recently received a permit from DOT so that the beta engineers can move forward with the geotech investigation needed for the 10-mile river crossing of Pawtucket Avenue. And that work is scheduled to take place in mid-December. And with that information, they'll be able to commence the design for the crossing of the 10-mile river. We had a meeting with DOT representatives in early November at the location of the proposed construction area for the directional drilling under I-195. This location is currently being used as a staging area for the contractor doing the Washington Bridge work. So the purpose of the meeting was just to determine scheduling of when their work would be done and as to when we may be utilizing that location. So it didn't really seem to be an issue. And also we discussed with them the process for obtaining the right to utilize that property. So they've been helpful on that front. I still haven't heard back from Kentucky, although I did have a conversation with their general manager regarding the agreement, and he has hired independent counsel to review that agreement. So it's taken him a little bit of time to get the approval to hire someone other than Mr. Keough. We cannot review it for obvious reasons. Demolition, we received just recently the building permit. Believe it or not, we needed a building permit to install a canopy, a covered storage area, which would be within the operations yard. And once that is built and installed, we can start moving some of the items that are under, or actually within the old treatment plant itself, into this storage area. And then phase 2, we'll start planning for phase 2 demolition over the winter. schedule that for the next construction season.
That's another permit.
That's another.
Demolition.
Yes, yes. But we were just surprised that we needed a permit, because essentially what we're looking at is we have the storage box containers that you see, and we're only going to put, a canopy covered structure, that's attached to the storage containers, the storage boxes.
Temporary.
It's temporary.
It's temporary permanent. Right? So it actually needed a footing design for the containers.
That's probably what did it.
Yeah, but even though it does sit on 5 inches of newly poured asphalt. And so be it. It meets the codes. So. The dam removal project continues. Not much has happened at the upper dam since some of you had toured that site. And the reason being is that they can't do any in-water work starting from mid-October, but they have graded that down to a level that they're maintaining that until next May. Until that time, they're able to continue to work on the lower dam, and they have been busy with installing the super sacks, which are just extra large sandbags to create cofferdams so they can work for demolition of the structure in the drive. But they have been challenged, I think, with all the recent rains we've been getting. The water level is a little higher than they had anticipated in the reservoir. And also there have been some earlier, it's like about 2 weeks ago, some extreme high tides due to the full moon that created some challenges for them, but they continue to work on it, and will do so actually through the winter months. And as you all know, we received some excellent news. We received an additional $500,000 from the National Coastal Resilience Fund, taking us up to close to $4 million total now for this project. So, that was really, really good news. They were very receptive when we asked for some additional funding when we received the bids. When the bids came in a little higher than we had anticipated, so they've been good to work with. Meter replacement, actually we're down to 11 since I wrote this, so at this point it's just a few left, a few stragglers that we're trying to take care of here. And water purchases, it's very typical October, a little bit higher in November, and I got the graphs attached. We've been finalizing the budget, and this will be presented to the board tonight. And we have the table of our capital improvement projects here, so the budgets are in good shape for each of those projects. Any questions?
Mike?
Don't have too much else to add, but the big thing that moved for us in the past few weeks was the delivery and installation of the switchgear associated with the Hope Street pump station. This has been the equipment that's been delayed for over a year, fortunately we got it, but we were not alone in this battle. Almost every construction project around is dealing with these type of delays. Things that are normally a month lead time, extending to a year plus. So we're fortunate to have this behind us. We actually may have the building on utility power midweek next week. So things are starting to come together. So over the next few months, we should start bringing this building towards completion. So we're working with the contractor now that things are falling into place, to get a schedule through completion and startup, so we can get this building online and then tackle the next aspect of that, which is expanding the high service, where from the project we did a couple of years ago, actually now, with the redundant mains in Metacom. So that'll be good improvements for the people associated with that.
What have they been digging around there? I go by it a bunch every day.
The last thing they dug was some of the new valves and appurtenances that will go in front of the whole ship, the feed to the tank. And we're awaiting a delivery schedule for a large vault with new control valve. That valve that is in there now is original, so it's early 1900s valve that controls the inlet and outlet of that tank. So we'll have new controls and vault that will be. We'll start to see the prep for that hopefully next week with delivery. Hopefully the week following or so. But we'll get those timelines pinned down over the next week.
Anything else you want to mention?
No, I think Steve touched on everything else. We're getting into break season. You'll see the guys out there. And by the time we meet again, the cold weather will be here, so you'll see them responding. Land maintenance work is getting close to wrapping up with the cold weather, and the seasonal availability of hot mix asphalt. That as the cold weather comes, that becomes less important. But yeah, middle of the night work. We'll be out there 7 days a week as they come in. So,
Nice photographs.
thank you.
Susan,
Work on this year's contract, it has pretty much been completed. We did add several streets because we had, money in the budget. We're down to about $350,000 remaining, and that will be to cover the final paving in the spring. So
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part of that
So
sentence.
we do have final paving in the spring.
Okay.
All of the actual water main work is completed. Everything was done without too many incidents. Everything went smoothly. So that contract will finish up in the spring with the final paving. We're starting work on the 2024 construction work. Steve will talk a little bit later on about the lead service line removals, but we're going to combine, since the board requested that we add more to the capital project for next year, we'll be adding some. We looked at the lead service lines and where some of them were clustered and added some water main rehabilitation work in those areas. We're still finalizing the exact work that will be done, but we'll be hoping to get the plans and specifications ready in the next month or so and ready for bidding through in the winter.
I would just like to a little bit on Randy's report. Some good information here on steps that we're always taking for cybersecurity. It's always on top of his agenda to keep things up to speed regarding that. He's always doing some employee training and informing employees, be careful on emails and things like that. Some backup and disaster recovery items that he's always working on. And also, one thing to note, to improve our engagement with our customers, we're looking at a new software module through our billing software that would send out text messages, potentially voice messages for customer communications regarding billing and things like that.
Steve, just a general question. This talks about backup to the system, I'd like.
Mhm.
But do we have a backup for the person who's running everything? If something happened to...
Yeah.
Yeah,
Randy.
we have contracted support
Is
services.
there anybody
We have contractor support. He also has kind of items laid out very sequentially, and then he reviews it with Mike and myself, just in case of something, if he wasn't.
But there are people who would be called in to back them up.
And, yeah, and we do have contractor support who understand our system as well.
Has any thought ever been given to having another person who would be there?
We have a little bit, but the work doesn't really lend itself to someone being here like full time to just be kind of sitting next to Randy, I think, you know.
Yeah, I understand. It's just that it's one person in a critical position,
Right,
which is important for
right,
the company on a minute-by-minute basis.
Right.
And something happened to him, of course it would be backup, but it wouldn't be like having him here.
right.
I just bring it because I worked in this area and it's
Mhm.
very complex now.
Right.
And to rely on backup people might work, but it might not work that well.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it
Yeah,
out.
no,
I'm just thinking
it's something we've talked about, believe me.
Yeah.
We have discussed
because it's
this.
very, very complicated.
Right.
And in the past it wasn't so complicated. Now it's very, very sophisticated
Right.
and critical.
I just noticed something, and I thought I had read this quickly, but obviously I missed something, and I'm surprised by my lack of comprehension in reading. It says at the bottom of one of these reports that was just given by Susan, the engineering project manager recently submitted her letter of retirement.
She did.
And I said, engineering project manager, that's Susan.
It is.
So when are you retiring?
In a few months.
In a few months.
Probably April,
End of April.
beginning of April.
It's gonna be the taxes.
We're talking
I
about.
wasn't thinking of taxes. I was thinking of finishing the plans and specs for next year.
Oh, well, we've got 50 years of work ahead of us.
We're not letting her leave until she gets the job done.
Nobody said you could leave. Well,
You have to, you can go, but you have to come back. Daily.
okay.
I don't live too far.
I don't know how you move on from that, but in any case, moving on from that. The next item on the agenda is board member of town council reports. Anybody have anything they wish to report?
Financial report?
Oh, I'm sorry, I've done that before too, haven't I?
Yeah.
You get new
I'm
glasses.
sorry.
If this was like a week later, I'd actually have November ready. This
And that just came from the optometrist too.
This is such
What
a
it is, you get your drops.
early meeting. Okay, so I put together October real quick, seems like forever ago now. We go through, we start with page 4, the October versus October. Revenue's down a lot, consumption for October, it's a timing thing, I think, and you're just looking at 1 month versus 1 month. The expenses for the month in total were up 4% versus last year. The biggest piece of that is probably just the pension. The pension contribution last October was actually $0, and it was $25,000 this year. We make that adjustment after they make their presentation. I adjust the next 5 or 6 payments to get it to equal what should be in there in that June 30th. So I adjusted that month that we didn't have to put anything in. Employee benefits increased again due to timing with the health and dental payments, and there was a decrease in that was offset by a decrease in operation maintenance expense with some timing stuff. That's like when you look at month to month, it's a lot of timing issues. Last October we actually paid $57,000 in paving bills. This year we didn't really have even close to that amount of paving, so that was a big chunk there. When we look at through October, which is a much better number to look at for the end of the year, revenue is down slightly. I was talking to Joe, we're getting into the months now where it's going to kind of level off, so we're kind of thinking we'll probably be pretty flat with revenue this year, maybe a little higher. The rate increase last year helped that a little bit. The consumption this year has been down. The expenses were a little bit lower. 0.66, less than 1%. Administrative was higher, again, that's the pension expense. Put more in the pension this past 10 months than we did the year before. The water was down, again, consumption's down, so the water purchase was down. And there was some decreases again in operations maintenance expense. We had that satellite survey last year that was in there for $40,000. We didn't have that obviously this year. And there was some timing differences with paving. When we look at the October budget actual, revenue's still over budget, so 5%. November's a little bit better, so we may bump that up a little bit. But again, we don't anticipate that being growing too much for the rest of the year. The expenses are under budget. Again, another good thing, 9.36%. That's consistent with where we've been floating for the last few months. We've been in that 9% range. Three largest areas on the budget is professional fees. We've got less legal and consulting fees this year. Purchased water is down again, decreasing consumption. We had a cool summer this year. And the operations maintenance expense is lower due to timing. When we get to page 7 and 9, that's the dollars billed and the gallons delivered. The dollars billed show an increase of almost 5% versus the prior year, while the gallons delivered is down about 2. Again, those should probably flatten out for the rest of the year. Should be pretty close to that by the end of the year. So we think we did a 5% or 6% increase last year, blanking for them in this year's budget, and that's pretty much the difference. The 4.78 increase in revenue offset by the 2% decrease in consumption. It's pretty much the reading. We get to the trustee fund report. The debt service coverage ratio for October is 6.6. It was 6.64 for September. Early preview on October, I think it ticked up a little bit for October. And the last page is the pension summary report through October. There's a decrease for the month of about 71,000 and a decrease for the planned year of 642,000. The bulk of that decrease for the planned year was the retirement of Sue, the other Sue. That was the bulk of that decrease. And the balance as of October 23 is just over $3 million.
There's a requirement, isn't there, on the debt service ratio that that they don't want us to go above?
I haven't read anything, usually it's nothing about above. Because it's been higher than that. This is an estimate during the year, that the true one that really matters is at the end of the year when you do it, and it might come in a little bit higher or lower.
Right.
We've been higher than that, I mean, Mark.
Yeah, no, I was
7.
thinking that this is low, but I was struck there was something that I'm wrong, but I don't know.
I've never seen anything on high and that being over. Usually banks are happy with that.
Yeah.
They like high. They don't like low.
I would be good. Thank you, Dan.
I have a question, Dan.
Yeah.
You mentioned the satellite thing.
Yep.
40K, we did that. Was it worth doing? And should we do it again?
It's something we still track against the data. So it did develop data, and I mean, just recently we were talking about it because we just did a service leak that was on one of the points. So we still continue to track events versus the data we received to weigh out whether or not it's worth going forward with that.
You found that big one, right, initially?
Yeah, the other aspect is the the competition for that service is. There's less and less conventional leak detection services around, and the really successful leak finder around doesn't. He liked doing the targeted approach that we did with him with the satellite. So we're still weighing it out and evaluating it, but it is something we're looking at for, you know, every other year, every 3 years or something like that.
Okay. So it was worthwhile doing it.
We've yielded enough results to pay for the initial analysis.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions of Dan? Thank you, Dan. Now we'll go to item 6. Board member, town council reports. Does anybody have anything they want to mention regarding their town council activities or anything regarding the towns? No? Okay. One thing I do want to mention, if everybody doesn't know it, Gina has resigned from the board effective December 15th, if I remember her letter correctly. She has moved from Bristol to, in her email, I think she says she's living in Middletown right now. And she moved down there to be closer to her children who live in Newport. So we have a vacancy in the town of Bristol. And I will remind the council in an email to make an appointment. What I also want to do tonight is, I was hoping she'd be here, is to get propose a motion of support for Gina for her services that she rendered to the Bristol County Water Authority. I think during her time with the authority, she was always very outspoken and always had an opinion on a number of key issues that we have to deal with. And most importantly, she was always involved and had some creative ideas regarding finances and also public relations and communications generally with the public. So my motion is to thank her for those efforts and wish her well as she moves on in life. So do I have a second for the motion?
Second.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now we'll move on to the Finance Committee. Have 3 items of note.
The Finance Committee met this evening earlier, and at that meeting, there was agreement that we should make this motion to the Board of Directors. And the motion would be to approve in the budget, total operations expense budget of $9,584,228, and the infrastructure capital plan budget of $5,775,000 for fiscal year 2024.
Georgia was 5,755. 5,755,000.
5,755,000. 55?
I'm sure Sue we spend the extra 20,000.
Thank you. Would there be a second for that?
I'll second it.
Discussion about it? Any discussion?
All in favor of the motions, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? So unanimous vote?
So that was for both the O&M and capital? Wow.
That's the way I would have taken it.
Okay.
That's the way you presented it, right? Well, there was for items 1 and 2 in here.
Okay, right.
Yeah. And do we want any presentation on the 10-year financial plan? It's being presented for information only at this point, right? Okay. Now, when will that be acted on?
The next meeting will be the public hearing for the
Okay, so. Any other items, Mr. Chairman?
That's it.
All right, thank you. I'll go back to our director now to talk about the lead service line replacements.
Thank you. As you call it, the October meeting, I gave a presentation regarding lead service line replacements and the laws and the policies that are governing this type of work. And we've been busy, particularly the engineering operations staff, working on finalizing the lead service line inventory and putting together a project to essentially address all the identified lead service lines on the public side. Now, as I relayed to you, we in Bristol County, in our water district, we don't have not all lead service lines on the public side. They're lead service connectors, but because there's a component of lead, and the galvanized pipe is considered a lead service line under the law. Additionally, one of the new stipulations requires water utilities to replace not only the public side of the service, but also on the private side. If the private side has a galvanized pipe, or if it's not copper or plastic, and a partial replacement, then we used to go in and just replace on the public side, but we can't do that anymore. So we need to engage the property owner and get their cooperation and willingness to replace their side of the service line. So that we can move forward on removing the public side, I'm proposing to assist the customers that we propose a finance mechanism, whereby we have within the contract the private side replacement, and we're estimating that to be around $5,000. That could change, and then it would be a 5-year payback period for that type of work being done by a contractor hired by Bristol County Water. This program will be modeled under somewhat similar to what Providence Water has been doing for the past several years. They initially started out with a 3-year payback period, and they've since offered a 10-year payback period. And this is a no-interest, proposed to be a no-interest program. Obviously, we would need to develop a finance agreement and also a right of entry agreement. A right of entry would be an agreement, whereas the property owner would allow the contractor to work on that property. Again, we have some forms that are through Providence Water, and we would kind of, mold that after kind of our system, and we have this paperwork reviewed by Joe before we send them out to the customers. And for this initial phase that we're looking at for the project that engineering is working on currently, we have potentially up to 50 private side service lines. So initially we would engage them, we would send them out a letter notifying them of the work that needs to get done, and having them the option of this finance program. They may not want to do it, but if they don't do it, we would have that documented, because if the property owner does not want to replace their line and it's documented, we are then able to replace the public side. But we do have to initially engage them and offer them the opportunity and let them know that their line is a lead service line that needs to get replaced.
So 0%, 5 years to pay it back, sounds like a pretty good idea. We can look
You have 50 in the initial. Do we have any sense as to how many we have in total, potentially?
About a couple hundred.
I'm thinking in terms of the dollar exposure ultimately.
Or maybe choose 5 years instead of 3 or 10.
Make it a little more attractive. I think 10 years might be a little too far out for us to kind of have that money out there. 3 years seems a little tight as far as making it an attractive mechanism for property owners wanting to participate.
Does the agreement have some sort of lien on the property as well?
Yes.
Now, so my question is, we notify the homeowner that they have a lead service. and it needs to be replaced, and we're offering them a loan and have our contractor do it, and so forth. And they say, we don't want it done. And you say, okay, we're gonna do the public side of it.
Yeah.
Your private side isn't being done, and you say that, no, we have that on file, but it would seem that it needs to be publicly linked so that when the property goes up for sale, the next person knows that they have that kind of situation. Or, I don't know, maybe house inspectors would, that be on the checklist, to check with the local water authority.
Under the new state law, that's supposed to be,
It's part of the process.
yeah, right.
So, okay.
Would there be any type of financial restriction on the company from doing that? Because it would be moving into the financial business, and we're a water company.
Yeah, you've got pretty broad powers under the BCWA Act. I wouldn't see a legal problem. You're gonna, you're probably gonna pay it back and charge you a bill, right?
Yeah, would get on the bill.
I think we're gonna keep it separate. I think it's gonna be a separate bill. It's not gonna be on that water bill.
Would you bill monthly, quarterly?
Monthly.
Aren't we going to be obligated under this law to correct anything outside the house?
I think we're obligated to make an attempt to have this removed. So that's what this attempts to do.
And what do you think the average cost is going to be to do an individual home?
Right now, we're looking at it's like around $5,000. We're still, refining that cost, but that's what we're looking at.
So now this would only address the line coming into the house, but it wouldn't involve any individual piping within the house, would it? No.
No. It's going to require, though, right at the meter. But yeah, we're not replacing any lead service lines, plumbing.
It was an illustration, I thought, and something was passed out, wasn't it? Yeah.
Golden Fire meeting.
About the different parts of the...
Yeah, with the pipe in the street.
Right.
You can find that in the minutes.
In the minutes.
The last meeting.
So the private side would be.
I know I saw it, and I thought it was a great illustration. And it was very clear as to what was going on and so forth. So, anyway. Any other questions regarding this program? This one. Thank you.
We don't know how many will participate. I think what Providence has 50%. Get that participation rate.
Their initial participation was very, very low. And now that they're on the new 10-year program, I don't have updated data on what their participation is now. Under the 3-year program, it was not. And that's on full lead. Ours are galvanized requiring replacement.
Right.
Well, lead certainly is a very serious problem. I used to be on the board of directors of the Childhood Lead Action Project in Providence, and they've been endeavoring for the last 20 years to resolve these problems with the health department. And there is no safe level of lead. We always talk about what's an acceptable amount in a discharge in our drinking water and so forth. And usually there is some health calculations and evaluations that are done that says at this level you can start to find adverse health impacts from A, B, C, X, Y, Z, whatever. But with respect to lead, any amount is deadly. And it can cause all sorts of childhood growth problems mentally and physically. So it's nothing to be taken lightly, and I'm really glad that we're taking action in this area. So, but it's going to be a burden for certain to some. So, but we're doing what we can here to minimize that burden, which is also a good thing. So, any other questions, comments, thoughts? Thank you. We need to request approval for the board to proceed with this 5-year no-interest finance program to assist property owners that need to replace their service line. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other comments, questions, thoughts? Going once, twice, 3 times. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Quarterly write-offs is for informational purposes only. We continue to have an extremely low percentage of write-offs.
Joe reminded me that the full report will be presented to the board in February when comments will be taken and addressed at it. But yes, it's still.
Okay, now we have a number of items for executive session. One regarding personnel issues and another regarding litigation on North Farm, and also review of executive session minutes. Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
Motion to go into executive session. Second.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're back.
Motion to seal.
Motion to seal the minutes from the executive session.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're back in open session, and we're now on to item 11, Personnel Committee. Recommendation on Executive Director Employment Agreement.
Mr. Chairman, the Personnel Committee did meet, and we went over the contract, and we have a recommendation that we rehire Steve for 3 years with an increase of 3.85 pay rate percent. Personal time adjustment to 35 days, and that for any extension of over 10 days of that personal time, that he just has to request or notify the chairman, or request it from the chairman, rather than have to go to the whole board. And that's our motion.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Just my own comment that the 3.85% is, I feel that the job that's been done is more worthy than that. I would recommend the 5%. I know that the dollar value is my own position from what we've seen done between the dams and the various things that putting up with historic societies, the buildings, and various things that I see from my position.
If Steve wants to express his own opinion, Bob, I can only tell you, we discussed that with him, and he said he preferred the 3.85.
Then I withdraw my comment.
Okay.
We had the same sentiment.
Okay.
All those in favor of the original motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposition? Welcome to 3 more years.
Once you sign on the line.
I'll have it done tomorrow.
Okay, the next scheduled meeting of the board is down here for January 25th. We're moving that to the
Here's the chart.
24th, which is a Wednesday. You make note of that.
We have executive session minutes to vote on?
No.
No, I'll have them next
Okay.
meeting.
So the next meeting will be on January 24th, a Wednesday.
24th, not the 25th.
That's correct.
25th?
No, the 24th.
It's gonna be a Wednesday.
It'll be a Wednesday.
It's all about you now.
So we're gonna change this date,
That's correct.
cross out the 5, making it 4.
And
There you go.
cross out the 3 and make it a 4 too.
Okay. Okay,
That's the night of the, public hearing.
right. That's public.
So what day actually is it?
Wednesday, the 24th of January, 2024.
Okay.
That's the most discussion we've had on anything tonight. We have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Yep.
Adjourn? Aye.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.